Welcome to the official podcast for Badin and the Secret of the Saami. On this show, we talk about all things relating to the revolutionary historical fiction graphic novel, Badin and the Secret of the Saami. Have you read this book? If so, author-illustrator Eric Basir wants to talk to you. Contact us through the Badin and the Secret of the Saami website, www.badinsecret.com. That's BADINSECRET.com. Support the October book tour in Sweden. Eric needs to raise $14,000 to order books and pay for travel expenses throughout the entire month. Every contribution will get you a free digital PDF of Badin and the Secret of the Saami. For more information and to see other rewards, go to www.gofundme.com/BadinSecret, BADINSECRET. This is the first of many podcasts that feature special people in the country of Sweden. Almost none of them consider themselves as special. Yet, when you read the historical fiction graphic novel Badin and the Secret of the Saami, you discover that most ordinary and often despised people are indeed some of the best people. Humility, honesty, and the sincere desire to be at peace with others are underappreciated nowadays. The accumulation of wealth, greed, and intolerance are the name of the game today. This always leads to destruction and corruption in a society. When society is in disarray, that is when the despised and the rejected rise to the occasion and restore balance. In Badin and the Secret of the Saami, you see this played out to its fullest. So in this podcast, I had the honor of interviewing Imma of Stockholm, the capital of Sweden. She is a Swedish language interpreter and owns a massage therapy business. She also holds a teacher's degree in English and history, and she has studied interpretation and French in Strasbourg, France. For many years, she was also a school teacher. She is currently working on a series of children's books about being a child of color. The books are to encourage children with different skin colors to see themselves as what they are, and not to compare themselves to white children. Last but not least, she is also a reader of Badin and the Secret of the Saami. Imma's story is profound, and it provides a window into life as a black Swedish woman in 2017. As she talked about her great accomplishments and the awful humiliation she endures on a daily basis on account of her dark skin, I thought about Badin of 200 years ago, how he might have felt for her, how he could relate to her. No matter how much education he obtained, no matter how much he excelled in the Swedish language, and no matter how high of a station he achieved in life, he would never, ever be accepted as a Swede. Or would he? Yet among the depression that results from this realization, Imma, like Badin, took pride in her beautiful ancestral heritage and black skin.
Well, I work with massage. I'm a massage therapist, and I actually started a small company. I started a small venue, trying to work with consulting and trying to work with different areas, especially in areas concerning trying to help people to meet in different connections. And my interest was trying to get people to work with handicrafts, sewing, mending things, trying to reuse stuff that we already have today in society, and so on. And so I started doing that. Well, I've always done that, actually, but I wanted to do it more on a commercial basis. And that's why I then started with Imma Consulting.
And what is that? Where is that located?
The location is in Stockholm, in Sweden. where I live, in a small suburbia, 40 minutes from the main city, Stockholm, in Åkersberga. So it's a bit outside of Stockholm, but it's not very far off anyway. It's quite, for me, it's okay. I like, I don't like being in the center in any case. So, and so I wanted to start in the area where there's, for some time, hasn't been very many foreigners living. And so that's why I wanted to have something, because I've been working for many years in projects, and where I used to live in a suburbia where there's a lot of foreigners, I used to work as well, I worked with foreigners and youngsters and people who are, the new generation who are newcomers in Sweden, and I liked it. I enjoyed it. But then that doesn't, there isn't very much work in the area where I live. So because of the increasing amount of foreigners coming to Sweden and to the different communities, I felt that I wanted to work to try and connect people with each other. And it's been very difficult because, you need to speak to people, you need to talk to people and tell them your idea and give them, trying to share. And I've tried to speak to the municipal about it, and they haven't been really very interested in working in these areas. But lately, I know that they've showed interest because they've had to. But privately, it's been very hard. And then, of course, I've been having private issues, separation and stuff. So it's been a bit too much. So I need to put that on ice so that at least I can work with financially trying to cope and survive before I can start the project again.
Yes, yes. And so right now, the work that you do is, as far as the massage work, the massage therapy.
Yes.
That is your focus.
Yes, and
right
I work.
now.
Well, my focus is that, and then I work as an interpreter and translator as well, Swedish and English, Swedish, English, English and Swedish.
Very good, very good.
Yes.
And you spoke of foreigners, right? So.
Yes.
What does that mean to you, foreigner? I mean, you were born there, right, in Sweden?
Well, no, actually, I came to Sweden when I was 10.
When you were okay. And you
yes.
can you tell us a little bit about where you came from and?
Yes, I come originally from Uganda, and I come from the Luo people. Come from north east, I think it is. Yeah, northeast towards Sudan, Kenya. The border. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And we had to flee the country during the 80s. So we came to Sweden when I was around 10, going to 11. And so, yeah. So I identify myself as a foreigner because I am a foreigner, no matter how many years I've spent in Sweden.
Even though you're a citizen?
Oh, yeah. I don't think I would define myself as being a Swede.
Why?
Because because I haven't been accepted. I mean, there's a lot of things happening in society, and I don't feel welcome here. And I think it's been difficult to identify myself as a Swede because I look different from Swedish people. And then nowadays, with the political, situations where there are actually people promoting the definition of what a Swedish person looks like and what a Swedish person is, it's becoming extremely difficult to defend myself and define myself as a Swede.
Has that?
I mean,
Go ahead. Please go ahead.
And I think that most of my friends, I mean, if I do ask them, they would say, "But you're so Swedish. I mean, you behave like a Swedish person, and everything I know about you is Swedish." And then I say, "Well, it's because it's easy for you to forget." Because you know me. And that's also one way for people to say, well, you know what, we know who you are, and you are really, really Swedish. And I say, well, you know what, it doesn't matter if you know me as I am, and you want to define me as a Swede, but society will really never look at me as Swede because my skin color is different, and that's it. So.
And has this definition of yourself evolved to where it is now from the way it maybe was when you arrived here when you were 10 years old?
Yeah. Oh, of course, yes. Of course, yes. Because I mean, I remember when we came to Sweden in '88. Um, I mean, it was very different. I mean, I could say that the difference between now and then had, of course, to do with the fact that I was still young, and I didn't have the notion and understanding of nationalities and differences and color and whatever you say. And for me, it's been gradually growing in my mind that no matter what I do, I would never be regarded as Swede because you can see from a distance that I'm very different. I have a different color, and that's the core definition of me as a person. Because my color is different from the ones that is used to define and describe a person is Swede, or a person who is Swede. And I am not Swedish because I do not have the correct color of the skin. And so it's very easy, and it's, for me, I do understand there is a lot of people that say, well, you know what, we do feel with you, and we do agree that it's silly for people saying that you're not Swedish. I mean, if someone talks to you on the phone, no one would ever know that you're not Swedish. I say, yeah. So you are agreeing with them, not looking at me as I'm not Swede? Well, I mean, and and it's very difficult for them to say, it's, you understand what I'm saying, right?
Yes, entirely.
Yeah. So what can I say? Because I'm very good at, trying to figure out what people have, what sort of mindsets they have. And you can always get the best person and say, well, you know what, I don't think this is fair. I think this is terrible. And then you start telling them what happens. And then when they open their mouths and say, well, you know what, I wouldn't look at you as not being Swedish because... And I said, but yes, the thing is that I wouldn't want people to look at me differently, but as a human. Because that's the preference. I would prefer having myself to be defined within. And it's difficult because in a country as Sweden... And I'm thinking that it's the same in Germany, and it's the same in Norway and Finland, and I feel it's very clear, and it's very difficult to try and fit myself as part of the society. I could say that I am part of the maybe arriving generation of foreigners, that must be accepted because at least I've been here for 30 years.
Yes, and that's a significant amount of time.
Yeah, but to me, because I know a lot of history, and I know the sort of structures that the Americans have gone through, or the Brits, or the Dutch, or the people from Holland, I know that we still have a long way to go because we still haven't had this sort of more general acceptance where you will be seeing foreigners intercepting in different areas, such as, you find foreigners, reading their evening news or listening to the radio, or you find, where you feel comfortable saying that, what, we have, a high position person in a company, and look, he's black or she's black, and just that wow factor. We're still having that wow factor. If we see someone out of the ordinary, I'm still amazed. I'm like, how did they get there? They must know someone, Right. And I start thinking as the other part. I'm not thinking as a woman with knowledge who has studied for 13 years at university, who has done this and that. I'm thinking as, someone who still has arrived to a new place where I still need to find my place because I haven't found my place in Sweden yet. And I mean, I do have family.
Mm-hmm. Your parents are there too. Your parents, right?
Yeah, my family lives here. My mother she lived in Sweden until a few years ago, and she relocated for some time to England because she felt she wasn't fitting in here. So, and I do understand her because she was too old when she came to Sweden, and she felt that it was very difficult for her to adjust. Mm. And she preferred moving to a place where she at least felt she was part of the community. And,
But so she was there. She was there as long as you.
Oh yeah, I mean she's been here for many years. She is very active in Sweden. I mean it's not that she's gone away and she's never come back. She is still part of the Swedish society and community and so on. But you know to say that you know what we have assimilated to the extent where we find ourselves or we look at ourselves as part of just a Swedish society. It's not happening. I can't feel it. I haven't been able to settle down and feel that.
So you had mentioned going to university. So you hold a couple degrees, or at least one degree?
Yeah. Well,
What?
I started by studying. Well, I did. You know, I've always been interested in traveling. And so I decided very very early on that I wanted to study French. So I studied French in Strasbourg for 2 years at Math Bloch, University Math Bloch. And I loved it. I loved France because, you know, there were so many different people there. And I felt more at home there than in Sweden. And I made a great deal of friends, people from all over the world, and students and inhabitants as well. It was it was an experience that I really loved. And I still feel that I prefer living there than actually living in Sweden, because I think I would have more opportunities than I have here.
So the opportunities that you're talking about, having more of them, is that is that related to lack of opportunity in general, or is that because you don't quote unquote look Swedish?
I think that it's both of them because there was, you know, I worked for 7 years as a teacher in different areas. I worked as substitute teachers. I worked and for a long period of time sometimes in one and the same school, and the acceptance level was quite high with the teachers, some of the teachers or my teacher colleagues. And then I had a few students that actually, you know, didn't accept me because I was African. And so I tried to
What do you mean
to
by
try
that?
to
They didn't accept you. Could you give an example of
well,
how that
there
was?
was an incident. Yeah, where there was I had a student who actually he had heard from the parents that he didn't have to respect me because I was a black person and I was an ape. So he didn't have to listen to me during lessons, and he didn't have to listen to whatever I say. I didn't have to, you know, I couldn't tell him you know, to be quiet because we had lessons. And so I addressed this to the headmaster, who said, you know what, you know, just ignore him. It will pass. And I said, well, you know what, I don't think it will pass. I mean, we might need to talk to his parents and just try to figure out what's going on. And his attitude was like, you know what, let's just forget about it. I mean, don't make a big deal out of it. I said, well, I think I have to kind of, because he's insulting me as a person and I don't agree with that. So do you think we could like do something? And he said, no, we don't need to. And it continued for some weeks. I worked for 6 months at the school. And then it continues for a few weeks. And I tried to ignore it. It was really difficult because it was a trial. I was a newly educated teacher, and I was out trying to figure out if I really did want to work as a teacher or not. And so the first meeting with school was students who could behave as they wanted to behave towards me because I was African and because that's the way their parents had, you know, taught them to treat non-Swedish people. And I had actually one event when I was going to the canteen. We had lunch, and I passed a group of students who were year 8 students or year 9 students, and they start calling me, oh, look at that black, you know, look at that nigger, you know, how can she be here? And the whole canteen, you know, just became silent. And I had a few college teachers sitting, you know, at a table, and I didn't really know how to react because it never happened to me. It had never happened to me before that, you know, that students could say something like that so openly. Because normally it happened between me and students, you know, in a small area where people could, maybe someone heard something. But in this case, it was in a canteen. There was a lot of students and teachers, and nothing happened. I was waiting for, you know, a reaction, and nothing happened. I was so shocked. I was like, I couldn't believe it. I'm like, okay, so if no one reacted, Is it because that I feel that I might have overreacted, or maybe I just needed to just settle down and see if someone would react, or any of my colleagues would say something, to defend me. But it didn't happen. And so, yeah.
This, what you're describing to me is very familiar to me.
Mm-hmm.
But not as an adult. Not in my life as an adult. And as you were describing it to me, I felt the stress from the pain, the humiliation that you experienced. And I am clear that this was not just one incident in your entire life in Sweden.
No. Yeah.
And for someone to have to endure that on a regular basis is it's shameful. And for especially to not have the support of the staff and the supervisors is just remarkable. It's savage, and
it is.
It is. It's clearly. I mean, and Sweden has a lot to learn from America, and America's got a lot to learn from Sweden. And that type of conduct, I can guarantee you, if you were a sub at one of our schools and that kind of business started going on, they would have been checked immediately, typically, especially in the cities here. But and that borders on hate speech. That's straight up hate speech. Those things lead to lawsuits over here.
No, that would never happen in Sweden. So, because I think that the Swedish society has not yet understood the gravity of. Actually, the thing is that there's a lot of things happening in Sweden, and I think that the problems we have today is that we do not know how to deal with situations that occurs because we have not yet accepted the fact that there are going to be differences in the society as such. And I think the society somehow is trying to fender themselves, or the people that look themselves that this is us, and the other ones who are not like us are the other ones. And so we need to try and divide ourselves and say this is the Swedes, and the other ones are not Swedes. We just have to have them there, but we don't need to necessarily, regard them as part of us. And I think that line has not been erased. And as long as we have a line where there is an us, and then there's the rest, and then the rest, consists of Africans, we have the Turks, we have the whatnot, whatever, the different people that are not Swedish are the other ones. We will be having a lot of problems because we still do not know how to handle the situation. And because the fact that we are defining the Swedes or Swedish people or us Swedes who are here as we are the most fantastic people, we are so great in this and we are so good in that, and it's just now, I'm sorry, it's just that we're talking about feminism in this country, and we still have women earning less than men. They're doing the same jobs, and we're earning less than men. We are talking about the difference between being woman and man, and that's a normality, okay? And then we have a difference between being Afro-Swedish in Sweden compared to Swedish. And then we have the Turkish Swedish, and then we have the Arabic Swedish, and then we have this and this, and all of them have been defined in different categories. And we are nowhere near the Swedish, no matter what we do. And I do not know. Right now, seriously, Eric, I'm thinking about how to change my life. And one of the aspects I'm looking for is trying to move away from Sweden. And it's difficult because I have kids here.
Could
And
you
so
tell?
I'm
Could you
looking.
say how many and their age?
Well, I have three boys. The oldest is 20, the second one is 14, and the youngest is 10. And because I don't feel that I'm going to be part of this community, no matter how well Swedish I speak, how much of the Swedish society I understand, how much of the culture I have within me, because I don't think there's anyone more Swedish than I am, to be honest. I mean, you could ask anyone, seriously. Because I have to learn everything about what it means to be Swedish, and a bit more, you know.
Yes.
And it's not enough. And I just feel that, you know what, I've already given you 30 years of my life. I'm 40. I'm 41 this year. And there's no, I can't incorporate more than this. The only thing I can't do is I can't buy myself some parents and inherit from them. Because it's impossible. This is what I have, and this is what I have working for me. And it doesn't matter how hard work I do or how much efforts I put in to become more Swede, or how perfect Swedish I speak, or how much Swedish law I understand, and whatnot. You can continue counting the things I need to know, I need to do, I need to become. And it's just not enough. Because today we have a party in Parliament that says, well, you know, they're on their way to become maybe the biggest party for the next election. And what they're saying that if you're different, if your color is different from my color, that means that you are here unlawfully, and we do not want to have you here because you are different. Your color is different, your skin color is very different, your eye colors. You don't speak this, oh, you might speak Swedish, but I mean, really, are you Swedish? No, you're not. And there are people that are saying, you know what, it's true. She's not blonde enough, and she's not Swedish enough. And she's just here because she's using our, you know, universal healthcare system or whatever. No matter how many years I work in Sweden.
No matter how much taxes you pay.
How much taxes you pay. It doesn't matter. I've been working since I was 15. I've been paying taxes in the country since I was 15. But I will never be Swedish. And why am I trying to force myself into that? Seriously. I have a higher education. I'm sure any other country will take me. I'm a cheap labor because they wouldn't have to pay for my education. I've already done mine.
And
so you see?
Your experience in Sweden, your education, your experience, your personality, all of these things are assets to the nation.
Of course.
And you know it. You know.
Oh, and I know it.
You're clear about who you are and where you come from.
Of course.
And
of course.
You've raised a family there.
Mm-hmm.
Your children, y'all speak Swedish, English, French.
Yeah. Yes.
And some language from back home, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Of course.
Which language in Uganda did you speak?
I speak Acholi. Yeah, Acholi. I speak Acholi. It's a Luo, Acholi. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's difficult to say, I know. And it's a Luo language, which is found in Sudan, Uganda, and Kenya.
Yes.
So three different areas. Yeah.
Yes. It's not quite one of those. What is it? The Bantu language group, right? It's different.
No, it's not. No.
Yeah.
It's different. Yes.
Yeah. And there are many other Swedes there that are from Uganda.
Well, we do have a small community in Sweden. We do have Ugandans in Sweden, and because as every other country, there are different groups of people. I come from the group from the north, so it's a small community. And then we have the groups that come from the south, which are different, and they are part of the government. So we had to flee from Uganda because of the new regime. And so that means that we have some sort of differences, or political differences in a lot of issues. So even if we do have a Ugandan group, I don't think we can unify and say we all are equal Ugandans because, well, it's too complicated to talk about. And if you know the history of Uganda, then you know that. Or if you know the history of any other country where there's a lot of internal affairs and problems, then you know that it's all about differences of language, of appearance, of whether if this guy is darker brown than this guy who is more, then you know there's a difference between who is on the higher step than the other one, and so on.
Are you, do you think that those kinds of differences among Swedes of Ugandan descent, do you think those kinds of differences will melt away with newer generations? For example, your sons. I mean, will your sons and then sons of a family that came from the South, do you think they're more likely to say, "Oh, this is silly. We're not gonna fight and bicker about this"?
I think my kids have not been very interested in understanding about the differences of the people of Uganda because I have not been interested in giving them that information. It hasn't been important. And they don't really care, my kids. I mean, they're half Swedes and half Africans, and they don't really... the thing is, my kids are very universal. They haven't been interested in knowing a lot about the race discussions that we've had. Of course, my oldest son doesn't have the same father as my two youngest. It was my first boyfriend, and he is Nigerian. So my oldest son is he's 100% African. So he's dark, just like I am, which means that he has already been subjected to racism, and he doesn't really understand because we moved to an area where there's a lot of Swedish people because I didn't want my kids to not speak perfect Swedish. And so that means that I traded one bad thing to one almost as bad. He's had a lot of good friends at school. He's been associating with Swedes. But then the older he becomes, the more I think people notice that he's African. And so he has at several, during the years that's passed, I think 3-4 years ago, he told me, "Mommy, you know what happened today? I was on my way to school, and then some guy driving a white pickup honked and told me, 'Fucking nigger.'"
Yeah, that's the big thing out there. Yeah, they love to say that, don't they?
Yes.
They love to say
that. They do.
That.
And he's like, "I don't understand. What do they mean?" I'm like, "You know what, Max? Well, the thing is that because you and I are so dark compared to your brothers, people will always use their anger and hate towards us. And honestly, I haven't been able to talk more about it because I didn't know how to address it. How am I going to tell my oldest son, now you're 20, you should know that, there are going to be people that without any reason will come out and tell you that they hate you because of your color. What am I going to say?"
Yeah.
I've been a bad mother because it will happen, and I do not know how it's going to react.
Well, you're a caring mother. You really you're not a bad mother because look at how you want to raise them. You want them to be well educated and be able to maneuver in the system, and that's very good. So much of what you're telling me is it makes me go back to the graphic novel Badin and the Secret of the Saami.
Yes.
And
yes.
It just kind of makes me wonder or want to know from you, as you were reading or as you are reading the book, are you finding any similarities, things you can relate to, maybe things that give you a deeper understanding of yourself?
Yes. I think that, when I was reading it, and then I think that there was a scene where he and his sister and brother were run off to town. When they were hiding and pretending as if they were all normal people. And I'm like, how is he going to pretend he's normal? He's very, very, very special. He's black.
Hmm.
I mean, no matter how much you try to hide yourself, you can't hide,
Hmm.
you know? And I've been thinking about it. I'm like, for kids, they might not have noticed. He didn't, I mean, I'm sure he thought about the fact that, you know what, we can dress up and we can try to pretend as if we're someone else. But it's going to be difficult because your color is going to somehow tell people who you are. Because he and his sister, or his sister and brother, they were doing something and they wanted to do something and they ran off the castle to the streets
Hmm.
and hid themselves in caves and trying to just feel the pulse of the society. And I say it's impossible to hide because no matter how much you try to hide and pretend, there's always this issue of you're different and you will not be ignored, and it's different. It's difficult for them or someone else to turn the blind eye to whatever you're doing because you're different. And also there was another scene where he took a blame on something. I don't remember what was, but he couldn't. He had to take a blame on something that someone else did. I think it was the brother. And I felt that happened a lot. If something happens and you know that no one is going to say I did it, and you know that you're going to be blamed for it, so it's just come out and say, well, you did it, and then get it over with, because they wouldn't believe you anyway. Seriously, yeah. I know. It's silly, but it's true.
When I wrote it, I thought of it was a lot of myself and in it in Badin, and
Mm.
I didn't realize that what you just told me, that kind of dynamic.
But it's true.
Because I mean, I'm
You
very
know?
light skinned, but when I was little, I had a nice big
Yeah.
afro, so it was
Mm.
always, yeah, you just not standing out. So yeah, Badin's gonna wear a hood when he's out in the street.
Yeah.
So,
Because that's something that I always have to remember whatever I do. I'm going in a store. That's why I almost never ever enter stores anymore when I'm in Sweden, because I know someone will be looking at me suspecting me of stealing something. And so when I enter a store, if I have a big bag or I have a basket with me, I'll just go to the cashier and say, excuse me, could I just put my bag here because I can carry it around? Because I know the fact is that if I walk around with it, they'll be looking at me as if I'm going to steal something. And that happens every time, every single time. So you know what, is it okay if I put my bag here because I can't carry it around? I'm looking for something special,
wow.
you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because do I look as if I'm going to steal something?
Yeah.
No. I have a very expensive bag. It doesn't matter because they think I'm going to steal something, a pair of shoes and whatever. And I say, you know what? Don't
Even
chill down.
even as an adult, you experienced this.
Of course.
That wasn't
Why wouldn't
something
I?
from your childhood.
No, 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 no,
So
no,
right
no.
now,
I'm talking about
as an
2 years
adult,
ago.
yeah, you're saying you're 40 years old. They still think you're trying to steal some candy.
Of course.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I could. No matter what store I entered, if I'm going to look for shoes, I have to make sure that I first introduce myself. It's like, hi, yeah, where do you have your this and that? I'm looking for this and this, so that they feel that, oh, she speaks Swedish, and she seems to know what she's looking for. So there's no point in me thinking that maybe she'll steal something, but I'll make sure anyway that, you know what, I'm looking for this, and, can you help me? Or, you know what, I'll look for it myself. Could I just put my bags here and just, it's too heavy to carry, or, so that they know that, okay, she speaks Swedish. That means she's not stealing anything because she seems to be quite Swedish, or why not, Yeah.
Did you
Oh yeah, I have it. I have strategies for everything nowadays.
did you ever we're a similar generation, but I don't know how much American television you got to watch, but there was
Mm.
Eddie Murphy, the comedian. Are you
Yeah, yeah.
familiar? Black
Oh
comedian, and
yeah, of course.
he was on
Yes, yes, of course.
when he was young. He was on Saturday Night Live TV show. And did you happen
Yeah.
to see the skit he did where he dressed up as a white man? and went to a store.
No, I missed
Yeah.
it. No, I missed it.
Yeah, you might be able to find it on YouTube, but what you're
Yeah.
telling me is so hilarious because you know how you worked so hard to prove that you're not a criminal when you go into a store to buy some shoes or some groceries, you know.
Yeah.
And what he did is, you know, he went in as a black man and they're watching him, asking if they can I help you, sir? Can I help you? Can I help you? And then when he put on the white makeup and he got a little wig and he would go in the store and no one bothered him. In fact, he grabbed the newspaper and started walking away. And the guy in the store said, "Go ahead, take it." I know it was a satire. It was not serious, but, you know, it's just what you're saying is so sad and relevant.
Something is happening to the internet. Can you hear me?
I can.
Okay, well, I hear you. It sounds very electronic, but I can continue. But I do understand, Eric, because that's my reality. That's my everyday reality. And it takes so much energy to live because the thing is that it's exhausting to be a black person in Sweden for me. I don't know how other people are experiencing it, but I'm telling you that if I'm walking down the street, I guarantee you people, if it's an old lady or some middle-aged woman, she will move from that street. She will move to the other side. Seriously. And it happens so often. So I already have plans for each and every scene of anything that takes place. You know? Sometimes I have to remind myself that when I'm sitting on the subway or in a bus and I have a seat, I do not have to feel myself obliged to leave the space for someone else. Because it feels as if I must leave a space, because if someone enters and the carriage is full and everyone is seated, the first person they'll look at is me.
And
okay,
is that because they're used to doing that and that the black person sitting immediately gets up?
Of course.
So you're telling me in 2017, black people, we're going to say it like this, I'm going to say it like this, black Swedes have to give their seat up to white Swedes.
I feel so, yeah. That's my experience. I don't know how other people have experienced it. Because, honestly, I don't have time to reminisce on my experiences with other people or other blacks, because I know they're fully busy trying to survive every day.
Yes.
And so it's very, very common. So what I've tried to teach myself is that, you know what, someone else can do it. But then I remember, you know what, if I don't get up, then that person is going to tell someone else about that black mean woman who didn't get up when someone came and needed a seat. Oh. So I do get up, and then I do smile and say, "Oh, you can take my space. You look so much older than me."
You say
You're
that?
welcome. Yeah, I do.
You look so old and frail, like you're about to collapse.
Yeah, so please do take my seat.
I'm so much more healthier than you, actually.
Yeah, of course, yeah. I mean, because I look so young. All Africans look so young compared to their age. So, of course, it has to be me that gets up. It's true.
Well, if I'm on the subway train with you, I won't let you get up.
We'll see.
I say, sit down.
I have to defend my race. I'm sorry. It's true. Because last year I was taking the train. I parked my car and I said, you know what, today I'm taking the train to town. It's cheaper. It's healthier. I need to associate myself with people. I can't hide away from people because I'm tired of looking at people's faces. So I stand at the platform, and then there were 3 small young girls. They were selling, lemonade. And I was, I'm like, okay, you know what? I don't really want to buy anything because I'm on my way to town and I don't want to. I just don't want to. And then when I was just passing by, and then I remember, I said, oh, yeah, you're African. You have to buy it.
Why?
because
Why?
because those kids will only remember the African woman who didn't buy the freaking lemonade.
You know.
And then you can,
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
yeah, you can imagine the story. You can imagine the story. You know, black people, they don't buy stuff from others, so they don't even look at them.
You know, whenever I'm in a restaurant, you know, and I'm always thinking about that, you know, like, what are they going to say? Black folks don't tip.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm gonna try to give a little more, you know. I'm always gonna do a little bit more. I'm when I go and do things, when I interact in the society, like I don't jaywalk. Do you know that term out there?
I know.
Okay.
Yes, I do.
So
Yeah.
I go at the corners. I cross at the corners. I cross at the lights. I put on my seat belt. I really try to follow all the rules, so they can't have any excuse.
Yes.
To be offensive to me, you know. But even that is not as intense as what you describe.
No.
You know, and
of course not.
And the darker your skin is, the more of a target you are for their relentless, bigoted actions. You know.
Yeah. I mean, last week, I mean, you know, things happen to me, and I'm just somehow I feel I don't understand why I wake up in the morning, because I know something is going to happen today. As soon as I step out the door, I know something is going to happen today because of my race. Last week, I had a really tough week. I just felt, you know what? I just need to take care of myself. I'm going to sit down at my favorite cafe. I'm going to order something nice to eat and drink, and then I'm going to enjoy it. So I take my car. I'm looking for a parking space, and then I see this lady coming with her 2 kids. And oh, she's taking off, so I can wait for her. And she looks in the car and she sees me, and I see that she reacts because I'm black.
She reacts.
Like, oh,
what do you mean reacts? What do you mean?
Oh, I mean, this, you know, something, you know, after so many years, you notice the way people behave. You know, she's not in a hurry anymore. She knows I need her space. So what she does is she takes, it takes her 10 minutes to take off. And I sit and wait, because I have decided to have a good time, to have a coffee at a nice coffee store, and I'm going to do it. So what I do is I turn my engine off, and then I sit and read. And she's doing this, and she's doing that, and she has to wipe this away, and she has to move this bag from this side of the boot, and she moves it on this side, and she looks at me. And then exactly where I'm parked, that's where she wants to pass. The thing is that she's not supposed to pass that way, because that's the entrance.
Right.
And I know she knows that. I know she knows that's the entrance. That's the entrance side. And the exit side is on her right. But she has to show herself superior to me. So if I need her parking space, I have to move my car. So she forces me to move my car to pass me, just to show that she's more powerful than I am. I'm like, yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Did you get your parking space?
Oh yeah, I did get it. It's just I was so shocked. I'm like, the energy people put on hate. I mean, what she could have won the lottery if she had put effort on trying to buy the lottery. The 10 minutes she needed to take from my time whilst I waited for her parking space.
And this is just one example of many transgressions. You know,
oh yeah.
If you would record all of them, you would probably have a very large book.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And the thing is, sometimes I wonder, did I really go through that? Or did I dream it? Or did I just invent it? Did that really happen?
You know,
Yeah,
There's
it does.
something that shocked me when I was in Sweden. I was on Alfersveria, and
Mm,
they had us in Linköping, and
mm,
so we had some time off, and I was grabbing newspapers and magazines, trying to understand where I was in
mm,
Sweden. It was for me. It was school. Everyone
mm,
else, it was kind
mm,
of like a party, a good time to drink and whatever.
mm,
But for
mm,
me, it was an educational thing, and I didn't want to be there anyways. But
mm,
I open up this weekly newspaper, and
mm,
in it is this cartoon, an editorial cartoon, and of a maid with a plunger in the rear end of a tar baby, a black
mm.
baby with
Yeah,
a
yeah.
bone in its
Mm,
hair tied, mopping the floor with
yeah.
it.
Yeah.
And it was so shocking. I showed it to my castmates. They're white Americans, and some of them were shocked.
Mm,
Like, whoa, what
mm.
the hell is this? Because we
Yeah.
only see that kind of thing in museums or in books about
Mm,
racist America, but
mm,
we never ever see anything like that in
mm,
weekly or daily newspapers or anything really that's in the public.
mm, mm, mm,
Now, as I described that to you, you kind of laughed. So, why did you
mm.
laugh, and what were you thinking?
Well, I mean, it's not unusual. It's that people in Sweden, I mean, we have differences in idiots, I'm sorry to say, people with no knowledge.
Yeah.
We always have that, no matter which country you are in. We idiots do exist.
Yes.
And unfortunately, we have medicine today because, if we had followed Darwin's theory, we wouldn't try to save everyone. There's a reason you can't really save everyone. I know that I'm really tough saying that.
Yeah.
But because of the medical advancement, we are saving everyone, even the ones that nature actually has said we do not want it to survive. And so we just have to accept the fact that we do have idiots. And I'm not talking about idiots as the antique Greeks defined it, people with no voice.
Mm.
This is people with lack of intelligence, okay?
Mm.
And then we have the other side where we have a lot of intelligent people, we have a lot of thinkers, intellectuals, and we have whatever mixtures they have, we have them in all of the societies we have on this planet. And we still, as I said, in Sweden, we are trying to test our boundaries. We need to, Swedes, the thing is that if I tell someone how my experience is as an African woman, they'll say, I feel you. I know how you feel. And I say, no, you don't. You know what I'm telling you that I am feeling. And you can use that sense of emotion that I'm trying to describe to you from the parameters that you might have experienced from something else that reminds you of that definition. That does not say that you and I define the same experience or the same feeling with a similar experience which you might have had with something else. Okay? So trying to tell someone that I do understand how you feel when you see this, it's like you're trying to insult me because you don't. If I see someone insulting a child because that child is African, I'm going to feel it so much more than you. And you can't, it's like a sort of competition. How much can you feel? Well, I feel this. Well, I feel more than that. Okay, then you win. So I'm used to things being tried and tested all the time. I've had these discussions among friends, we have this cookie which is called negerboll,
Oh,
the negerboll,
yeah.
yeah. And I still have discussions with people saying, when I was growing up, these were negerbollar. And I say, well, you know what? This is a new times. Stop calling them negerbollar.
That's right.
Because I take offense. I'm sorry. Yeah, but there's nothing serious about that expression. Well, why don't you stop using it then? Because if it's not,
Yeah, go ahead.
yeah,
Go ahead.
no, go ahead.
No, please.
You think that?
Please finish.
Yeah, for me, it's like if I feel offended with an expression, it's because I feel it in my skin that it's a sort of way of a person to describe me as a race. That's how I feel it. So if I tell someone, I feel offended when you use the expression negerboll. Because I feel it somewhere in my body that it's not right. Why do you want to define a cookie after my race? Why can't you use something else, a color or a shape or a geometric form or whatever you want to do? Oh, but we've always said negerboll. Well, in that case, by all means, continue calling it negerboll then. Because you have the right to do that. But then on the other hand, the thing is that use your brain. Is it okay to say this word? Is it okay to use it even if you would be by yourself? Do you feel comfortable using it? Do you think that someone will react? What happens if one of your best friends says, no, don't use it after like this and that? Will you still insist on using it? Yeah, because we always used it. You see?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You can't change people.
It's very deep, and it I've seen it when I was researching for the graphic novel and learning about the indigenous, the Saami people, and how they are defined, and how they were defined over the centuries. It was the same thing, and they had this term lap, a lap,
Yeah.
and it's still there. It's still in the code. You have Lapland, right? You have, and it's a highly offensive word to the Saami people to call them that, but it's just what we do. It's just, it's just wrong, and I was wondering, because I hear this negobola all the time, and I see this stuff, and I read the justifications for it, and I can't help but wonder, how would you like me to call this white bread here honky bread, cracker bread, white trash? Yeah.
Yeah.
Get some honky bread. Let's have some honky bread. Come on, let's have some fika and some honky bread.
Yeah.
How you like that honky bread? Want some honky? Oh, I like that honky bread. The honky bread. And eventually they're going to say, you know what, could you stop that?
Yeah, of course.
Because they're going to look up what honky means. And they're going to say, oh my God, I just Googled honky. It means white person.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And they do the same with the Asians, right? I saw Tobias Hubinet, he posted a picture of some Chingling Surströmming or something like that. Right?
Xing Shong.
Xing
It was Xing Shong.
Xing Shong, yeah.
Yeah.
It's so offensive.
Oh, but we didn't know that it was. Was it? Is it? Are you sure?
Yeah. Maybe not. Let me go check my list of racist comments to make sure it's in the book.
Oh, we'll take it away. Sorry. We just thought maybe because we found it very funny. Oh, yeah, of course.
And then there's this poor artist out there. I feel so sorry for him. And he makes art. He made nigger art or something.
Yeah.
He did that cake.
Yeah. That was so much. That was so funny. I'm sorry. I loved it. I laughed and laughed and laughed. That was so funny. Especially when the cultural minister was cutting the cake.
Yeah.
And then the cake became alive and started shouting.
Yeah.
And she's like, oh, that's funny. Why is he shouting? Why do you think? You didn't even react when you saw the cake?
It is such a travesty. I mean, the whole thing was just disgusting. But yeah, I think I see
you should
where
describe
you're coming
it. Yeah, because the thing is that, okay, so you say that, imagine that you're a culture minister and you've been invited to an event.
Yeah.
And it's an event on, I don't know, I don't even remember
I
what
think it was
the event
about
was
female genital mutilation.
Okay,
I think
well,
that's
that is
what it
just
was
too
about.
much. Because the funny thing is that what would a cake with a picture of an African slave have to do with female genitals? For a smart person, I would be asking. I mean, I'm
right.
Sure, I have 13 years of university. I have had formal education on thinking. I have papers that say that I can think highly. And I'm thinking, a cultural minister should at least have had a few years of studies to think, okay, so I need to study on this theme before I go to this event so that I know, the right questions to ask. The theme, what might come up. I have a press secretary who might have to go and see what's happening, what's going to be. But no, they didn't need that kind of, preparations. So they go to this place where the cake is made as a slave with big earrings, black face, in the original term, black face.
That's right.
With big lips. Mm-hmm. And then as a cultural minister, you're giving the honor to cut this cake. I mean, there are so many potholes.
Yes.
You must have thought somewhere, wait a minute, what's this about? No, she just skipped over that and said, let's cut the cake and go home. And then she's surprised that the cake's... I mean, seriously, it's like you give a gun to a 5-year-old and say, shoot and see if you hit someone.
And see if they scream or bleed.
Yeah, if they die.
Oh, look at there's blood.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I mean, because, that's why I'm saying, Sweden is there's too much going on, and we do not have enough educated people that are governing the country. That's my opinion, and it's always going to be that.
And I would talk about this, about what I was experiencing and seeing. Because it was a constant thing for me. I was there barely 2 weeks. And it was a constant, if it was the Americans that I was with, some of the Americans that I was with that was giving me pressure, or stuff I was seeing in society. Talking with non-white Swedes there, and the stuff they would reveal to me, and I'd be like, oh my God, this is terrible.
Yeah.
And it was I sensed naivete. Is that an appropriate? What do you think of that?
I think that in the 80s and in the beginning of the 90s century, 80s, 90s, I would say that naivety was the right word, because Swedes have always been regarded as very neutral, well regarded, with a sense, with the emphasis on the word regarded, and they have regarded themselves as very naive and very blue-eyed, and we believe in everything until someone tells us that they're cheating on us, and and in a sense it's true, but then on the other hand, it's very easy to point a finger and say, we didn't have a part of this, we don't know what they're talking about, they did it themselves, we just waited to see what would happen. They always put themselves as the party that doesn't awaken any interest. At the same time, it feels as if they're the one who are benefiting from not reacting or acting towards something. And the experience I have as being a student in Sweden is that I am a person that talks a lot. I do bring forward my expressions. I have my point of views. I have my opinions. I have my analysis of situations, of books we've read, of situations we have to analyze, and so forth. And I'm always the one bringing forward the more extreme viewpoints. And that gives me a problem, because that doesn't, it's not cohesive to the reality which they describe their reality. And so I am always regarded as the loud mouth, the opinionated, the know-it-all, and the person that we're trying to avoid as much as possible. And so what happens if I'm defined that way in the longer run? Well, that means that if something happens in a few years, I'm going to stop talking, because it's none of my business.
Indeed. When you silence criticism, you suffocate the truth. The experiences of blacks, indigenous, Asians, Turks, and many others in Sweden are important to understand, especially when society is in turmoil. Their contributions to the growth and evolution of Sweden span all the way back to its founding. But that history is rarely told. You've been listening to part 1 of a powerful interview I had with Swedish interpreter and business owner Imma. Subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't miss part 2. All social networking links and more information are at www.badinsecret.com. Last but not least, support the October book tour in Sweden. Eric, that's me, I need to raise 14,000 US dollars to order books and pay for travel expenses throughout the entire month in that country. Every contribution will get you a free digital PDF of Badin and the Secret of the Saami. For more information and to see other rewards, go to gofundme.com/BadinSecret. The Badin and the Secret of the Saami podcast is produced and edited by Eric Basir, that's me. Theme music by Shamis Khasanov. Be something greater than yourself. Peace.